to the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. I'm Diana, and you are visiting once again our Raptor Center here in Pueblo, Colorado. We're in a special place today. This is one of our flight enclosures that we're inside of. We thought it might be kind of fun to show you some of the places the birds spend their time. The flight enclosure is the last stage for most birds before they get to return to the wild. And flitting behind me, yep, there she is. You can probably see her back up there on the perch, is a female Cooper's hawk. She's recuperating from a fractured ulna bone, which is of course in the wing, just like we have the ulna in our arms. But anyhow, she's recovering from that, and hopefully in the next few days, she's actually going to be captured from this big enclosure and returned to the wild. Cooper's hawks and their relative, the sharp-shinned hawk, are two small birds of prey that have adapted very well in recent years to the urban environment, especially the Cooper's hawk. Cooper's hawks and sharp-shins are what we call a small forest hawk. They're a special type of bird of prey. They have very short wings and long, slender tails so that they can navigate through the forests very easily in pursuit of prey, most often birds. Well, if you think about today's modern urban environment, neighborhoods especially are very much like little forests, and Cooper's hawks and sharpshins have adapted to these urban landscapes because there's lots of food in the urban environment. They have birds, of course, there's squirrels to eat and things like that, mice, rodents, and so especially the Cooper's hawk has moved into our urban environment. We've noticed in the last few years in the Pueblo area that we are seeing, and even Colorado Springs, a much greater influx of injured Cooper's hawks coming into our Raptor Center. And that's just because this is a little bird who is thriving in the urban environment, and their populations are increasing. We have a little bit of competition today from an incoming storm to the south of us, but anyhow, they do very well thanks to the introduction of a bird called the collared dove. Collared doves are not native to the United States. They are a European import, and as their populations are beginning to thrive in North America, the Cooper's hawk is following right along and eating them. They like the collared dove to eat as opposed to our more native doves because they fly a little bit slower and they're a little bit more meatier. So in areas where we see collared doves doing very well, we're also seeing increased populations of Cooper's hawks taking advantage of that. So these are cool birds in the urban landscape. So being in an urban landscape, of course, they face lots of pressures. One, window hits. We see a lot of these guys coming in, hitting windows, being hit by cars. They clip fences and power lines. And sadly, we also see a lot of poisonings. And this week we had a very sad event. We got in a baby great horned owl, which is another bird of prey that does very well in the urban landscape. This little great horned owl chick came to us from the Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, and when he initially came in, he was covered in debris and blood, and we weren't sure what was happening. Once we got him cleaned off, he looked fine, he was eating, he seemed to be okay, but the next morning when we arrived, again, his underside was covered in blood, which was just strange. But we also noticed that blood was beginning to form pockets under his skin. Well, that was a clear indication that he was having trouble clotting and that he was the victim of a rodenticide poisoning, maybe decon or some other poison put out to kill rats and mice. Mom probably brought home a dead or dying rat or mouse, fed her chicks, and sadly for them, because they were so small, the amount of poison that had killed the rat or mouse also now was enough to do serious harm to her chick. We did try some therapy, medications to try and help this little guy, but unfortunately what that rodenticide does, that poison does, is it prevents the owl from producing vitamin K, which is really important in blood clotting. So essentially he has just bled to death, and he passed away this morning. We tried our best, but unfortunately we lost him, and that's a huge problem for birds of prey, is eating prey that has been killed. So if you're got rodent problems, please be very cautious about what you're putting out to kill them. Traps and cats work best. If you do have to use poisons, please do that in a very conscientious manner, because it was heartbreaking to lose that cute little baby great horned owl. So be careful, please, with those things. So today, very quickly, the flight cage that we're in today is huge. This is a structure that was built through a grant from the Colorado Lottery. So thank you to all the people who bought a lottery ticket about 12 years ago when we were able to construct this site, as well as many donors, both of cash and in-kind donations, to get this structure done. So this is actually 2 enclosures side by side. It's 120 feet long, 20 feet high, and 16 feet wide, and it's a wonderful step for our birds of prey to get their exercise. You probably notice, I'm going to step out of the picture for just a second, you probably notice at the end there's a staircase, and that's just to allow the bird to climb up into the upper perch, because sometimes when they enter in here, they're not lifting to the best of their abilities yet. But when they do come in, we're certain that if they come off of that perch, which is 16 feet up off the ground, that they are capable of safely getting themselves to the ground. So it's kind of fun to watch them. They'll launch from the perch, kind of make their way to the ground, walk back in some cases, climb up the ladder, and do it all over again. And slowly over time, it's great physical therapy. Eventually one day you'll come in and you'll see a hawk or an owl flying across very badly, but they fly across that 120 feet. It looks pretty hysterical, but eventually you'll come in one day and that bird just zips across and he looks fabulous, and you're like, yes, this is great. This little guy gets to go home. And that's what we're going to do today here in just a couple of minutes. I got some volunteers waiting. We have a little male Cooper's hawk that you're going to be able to see up close, and we're going to just toss him. We do have a storm passing to the south of us, but it shouldn't impact this little guy. He was bumped by a car, just had a concussion just a few days ago down the road from us. So we're just going to toss him here at our Raptor Center and let him go back to the wild, and he can probably fly back to his territory quicker than we can drive him there. So we're going to go let him go. So my volunteers, I think, are getting ready. So if you want to follow me, and we'll wander out to the outside of the flight cage and say goodbye to this little Cooper's hawk. Let's go. Just go ahead and head out.
All right.
Close the doors. Yep, got to close the doors behind us. All right, you guys ready? Got him out. You good? Yep. Yeah, let's take a little. Yep. Come on, Lizzie. All right. So we have. How about if I do this? Let me take over. Okay, great. Okay. Oops, my bank hand's in the way. Cool. So this is Coralie. She's one of our super volunteers. Yeah, she's Marjorie today. Anyhow, so this is a Cooper to reduce his stress while he's waiting. And oh my gosh, let me get close so you can see. This is a Cooper's hawk. This is a male, and he's a little stressed out. He's like, "What just happened to me?" But they're beautiful. Long, slender tail. His tail feathers a little bit ruffled up from the capture, but he will groom himself and shake that all out here in a few minutes. And he is just looking out at the big space ready to go. So whenever you're ready, Coralie, you can just, oh, got a little bit of raindrops, but he should be fine. There he goes. Okay. And probably to the tree. Yep. Yay! Well, there you go. Thanks for tuning in today, and we're excited as always to have you with us here at the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. We hope that you're staying safe and being well. We're working on reopening our center here in the next couple of weeks so we can have visitors once again and do our programs here at the center for visitors, as well as trying to keep up with you, still virtual. So it should be fun, but thank you again for joining us. Take care and have a great day.